ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Hello, and welcome. This is the Texarcist Live, indeed, straight out of Texas. We are going to have Paranormal Smorgasbord Monday. Going to start that each Monday and take listeners' topics that you want to talk about. Nothing's off the table. Any topic. I'm not going to shy away from any topics that you as listeners want to discuss, talk about. I'm certainly not shy, so we will definitely get to it and definitely do it. So be you thinking about what topics that you want to discuss or that you may have questions about, something that you may be interested in, personal experience. It can be anything, not just paranormal. It can be the unexplained, the unknown, just scientific, as much as I can, discuss that, or artificial intelligence, quantum computing, the simulation theory, anything and everything. So just get comfortable and make yourself at home, and let me know via our live chat, and also you can call in live at 430-901-1525. That's 430-901-1525 to the Texarcist Live. Anyway, I hope everyone had a good Monday. Hey, Jacob, glad you made it. My brother from another mother. It's really, really rough when you have to come back from a weekend, especially Christmas. And wow, here we are tomorrow night. Hey, New Year's Eve. So guess where I'm going to be? Right here. So those of you that are not going out and partying or whatever, if you want to, we'll have the countdown here and have some kind of a special New Year's Eve show countdown. Definitely won't be boring. Anyway, we had a good show last night, talking about many different things, about the Rh negative, Rh null, different blood types, and what I didn't you mention last night is that surprisingly there are biologists, geneticists that they are quoted as saying that humanity is not one species. Humanity is many species. There's many different species. Now, that word "many," I don't know if they're talking about 2, 3. It could be just, but they literally said many different species, and I found that very interesting. It's that species. You know, when you think about it like that, it's like you have a horse and you have a donkey, right? Okay. And they produce what? A mule. And mules are sterile because they're hybrids. That is until, I believe it was 1988, I think, 1988. There were two mules that reproduced, and the offspring was named Blue Moon because it was like once in a blue moon that would happen. So it's very interesting when you stop and think about different species, and that humans, you know, what they say, and I'm no expert, but what they say is that we are different species because of our different blood types. So, you know, you might want to look into that. We might do another show. Well, we'll definitely do another show about that. But anyway, got a lot of different people that were saying, "Man, that was really something to think about," you know. And that's the main thing that I want to do is I'm not trying to push what I believe on anyone. I guess the best way to say it is I just want it to be thought provoking, make people think better, and it's like, you know, you're the best answers or your subjects and everything, they're not going to come from me, they're not going to come from anybody else, they're going to come from yourself. I mean, they're going to come from you. So definitely, you know, listen to yourself. Talk to yourself. There's a lot of answers there. The answers are found. The answers are found in the questions we don't ask. So, you know, it never hurts to ask. Yeah, Jacob. Jacob says, I can't believe that 2019 is over. They go by faster and faster, it seems. Well, you know, in this on this podcast, on this show, you know what we talk about as far as time. Einstein said time is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. Time is not constant. So you know what? Maybe it is going by faster and faster. We would never know because we're measuring time inside the box. If we were outside the box, it wouldn't even exist, would it? But we're measuring it inside the box, so that compromises the measuring of time to begin with. So if it was moving faster, there would be some that would know it, that would feel it, but I don't believe many would. So you may be right. And Jacob, you say hacksaw blades for all. Laugh out loud. Yeah, Jacob and I had a discussion about people that they make wrong choices, and we were talking about playing around with the occult, playing around with like, you know, people that, you know, they think it's a good they think it's a good time, or, you know, they think, hey, you know, it'd be a lot of fun to have a seance or conjure a demon, or, you know, and they're playing around. And so they draw a circle on the floor, pentagram, whatever, they light candles, and they're all laughing and everything, and or they're playing with a Ouija board or whatever, which is actually, you're just tapping into your own subconscious, and that's dangerous because your subconscious mind can be an abyss. I mean, it can be hell. And you certainly don't want to raise something that you can't get rid of. And so I have dealt with, people that have done just that, and helped many. Man, I'm getting old. It's 27 years now, and I have to say, in the last 2.5 years, man, has it picked up to where when I started back in like 92, yes, that far back, was like I might get contacted by someone once a year, and then maybe two or three at the most get contacted about. Most of the time it was nothing. It was just a person, and they just thought that they were having dealing with the demonic or something like that. But there were a few that they were definitely oppressed, which is not possessed, which is extremely rare. And what happened is they were continually playing around with that power, playing around with that because they got a taste of it. I guess you could say the forbidden fruit. It's bad. It's spooky. It's certainly an adrenaline rush, if you want to say that, but there's a price you pay, and those that I've helped or tried to help that kept going back to it. Jacob and I were talking one day, and he said, "Just hand him a hacksaw blade," and I'm like, "What, a hacksaw blade?" And he says, "Yeah." He said, "Just hand them a hacksaw blade." He says, because he says when they get in bondage, or when they get chained, or get an attachment that's negative entity or whatever, he said they can saw their own leg off, and of course, we're joking, but it was, it was really funny at the time, because that's about what you have to do, is you have to say, hey, look, if you continue doing this, I can't keep coming and helping you out with this, I mean, it's like in 2017, there was a woman which I will never name names. I'll never out anybody. That's why people call me, is because I would definitely die, face machine gun fire or the electric chair, whatever, before I would ever say one word about anyone that has been through the horror and the just absolute hell of dealing with the demonic. And there's a woman in Las Vegas that she contacted me via email, and she said that she was having activity in her home, and so we talked, and I counseled her, I guess you could say, online and through video chat, and then it got to where that just wasn't working. So I actually got on a plane and flew from Texas to Las Vegas and spent 4 days there helping her, and it was, everything documented. Her mother, it was actually at her mother's house. Her mother was present at all times, of course, and it was intense. And she was free from the oppression, from the attachments, and she was having major activity in her house, in her home, and that was taken care of, and it was grueling, but she kept going back to it, and I told her, I said I can't keep bailing you out, I said so I said, this is the last time. I said, but I'm not going to come to you. You can come to me. You can fly here. So she did. She stayed 3 days, and turns out that there were some things that she did not tell me. That, believe it or not, the demon, or the what I call interdimensional negative entity, actually told me. And she said, what in the hell? And I said, you tell me. I said, is that true? And she said, yes. And I said, you didn't tell me that. I said, when I help someone with the demonic, they have to be honest. 100%. They have to be upfront and honest with me. I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm there to help you. I'm not there to judge you. And there was a lot that she withheld. And I told her, I said, that's dangerous for you. It's dangerous for me. I said, and because of that, I said, I can't help you any longer. And she caught a plane back to Las Vegas, and I got a call from, I was contacted via email by a minister that he said, I'm helping this woman she said that you helped her, and he said, there's just something not right about her. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said, she keeps going back to it. I said, there's, something not right there. I said, she likes the attention. I said, and she's not going to follow what you tell her. I said, because she didn't follow what I told her, and she wasn't upfront with me about many things and lied about things. And I said, it's very dangerous. And he said, that's all I needed to know. He said, because I was picking up the same vibes. And he said, so thank you. And so I guess she's still, going through that. But anyway, that's how it goes. So thanks, Jacob, for bringing that up about the hacksaw blades, because basically that's what, people that keep going back to that, the allure of that, power, or the unknown, or things like that, draws them back. And it's like, well, you're going to wind up by yourself. You're going to be scared, very, very scared, terrified, and there's not going to be anybody to help you. And that's a horrible case to be in. Jacob, you say time is relative. if you've ever been incarcerated, you know that the 10 minutes before you're released can seem longer than the time you were locked up. I imagine so. Oppression is one of the stages of possession. You are right about that. Many people are oppressed by, they have an attachment or attachments, and they don't even know it. They just think that, well, I'm just a depressed person, or I'm just prone to fits of violence, fits of rage, and not just anger. I mean, I'm talking about really, really, beyond anger. Like, you hear, about, someone that that's troubled, to say the least, and they're most of the time known as, somebody that you do not want to mess with. You do not want to get on their bad side. Why? Because they've like literally put more people in the hospital than cancer. It's like, whoa. Not just argue, but not just even fight, but I mean go overboard and like really, really hurt someone or even kill someone. That's oppression. I mean, there's something there that is really, really driving that person to do horrible things. And so anyway, hello Nazreen, glad you're here. Always glad to see Nazreen. Jacob, you say you can only pull someone out of the hole. They keep digging so many times before you have to say no more. If you like it so much, then keep digging and stay in it. You have to pull yourself out. And that's right. Absolutely. And that is true. And there was a woman in Scotland that, contacted me. And man, it was big time. I mean, it was, I have to say, it was in Scotland. And those of you that know her name, please do not mention her name, because we were all friends, and I'm still her friend, but I just can't have contact with her because of what happened. She was in Scotland, and I was doing live, video chat with her, and I kid you not, I mean, this is the truth. God help me, God strike me down if I'm lying. I mean, I asked her what had happened, and she said that her friend had said if you really want spiritual power, if you really want to learn things, powerful knowledge, then this is the demon to contact. And of course, she was very interested, because the way that this woman described this certain entity, spiritual, I guess you could say energy or maliciousness or whatever, personified, the way she described it was like very charming and everything. It's like a fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast, or something like that. So she said, you can learn a lot, but be very careful. And so she was drawn into that, and that's what they did that night. And they actually conjured this demon, and to the woman's surprise, the actual demon appeared, showed up, and she says, "I don't know what to do." And the woman that I was helping, later, she said, what can you do? She says, "I don't know. Call Shane." So I get a call, and she tells me the name, and I'm like, no, there's no way. I mean, it cannot be the actual, because they lie, and I've changed my stance on it is something that is foreign, but it is also the person's own mind. It's their own consciousness that this entity, this negative energy, somehow attaches and blends with, or weaves itself in, and bad things start to happen. And so I said, so they lie, and they'll say that they're Satan or Lucifer or whatever, just to cause fear, and most of the time it's lies. Well, this time it wasn't, and so I spent days with her, sometimes 8-9 hours video chat with her, and man, thing did not like me, I'll tell you that. The first session that we had, when I said something to her and said its name, every appliance in her house came on. Her TV, her stereo, everything, microwave, can opener, everything, hair dryer, everything comes on at one time, in 1 second, just like that. Boom. And she literally hits the floor. And all I can hear is this blaring of everything. I mean, it's at full volume. And she's just laying there. And then, boom, it cuts off. So I'm trying to call her, and I can't get her. And so about 5, 6 hours later, she calls, and she says, that's what's been happening. And I'm like, whoa, you got a real problem. You have a real problem. And so we really got into it, and man, it was not it was not for the weak of heart, I'll tell you that. And she was there were times when her face would like morph. It would not like in the movies, but pretty close. I mean, it would morph, and she would grin. She would have this distinct grin that's a signature grin, by the way. And it's the same whether it's a woman, a man, a child, whatever. I mean, it's that same signature grin and the same eyes. It's like that grin and the way they look at you. It's not the person, It's like, it's the demon, it's the entity saying, yeah, I'm here, I want you to know I'm here, but I'm hiding. And they do. They hide, they run. They run. What does that sound like? Because what's taking place is, if you think about it, I'm there to do what? To get rid of them, cast them out, exorcise them, which I don't like that term. I mean, just because of the movie, but and the connotations of that, which that movie was actually based on a true story. It was a little boy instead of a little girl, so yeah, she was sitting on her couch, and I was talking with her about things that she needed to do, and against this thing, and she had lost a lot of weight, and just had really gone downhill. I'm talking really bad, and that's what they do is they destroy. I mean, they lay waste. I mean, it just, a person wastes away. And I saw this grin, and her eyes just were very piercing. And I said, I can see you. And when I did, she was literally lifted up off of the couch. I'm talking like levitated or thrown up in the air. I mean, she had hang time. And then was thrown into her living room floor, where, man, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm getting chills right now talking about it. Her laptop fell on the floor where it was still, we were still live chat, live, video chat. I saw her body being hit, and I could hear the punches, and there was nothing there. It was invisible. And she was screaming, and I mean, this thing is like beating the hell out of her. And I'm telling it, leave her alone, stop, and just going to town. And of course, I'm not preaching to anyone. I'm not trying to sway anyone to Christ. So if you think that, you're wrong. But I'm not going to face something like that by myself. Not in my power. I said, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to stop, now. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I said, not in my power, but in His power. And she came up, looked at me with those glaring eyes, and then she collapsed on the floor. And it was like there was this thing just left really quick, and she crawled very quickly to the bathroom because she was actually bleeding. And when she came out, picked up the laptop, and she had blood in her mouth. She'd been beaten in the mouth. She had bruises on her back, on her legs, on her arms. I mean, she was literally beaten. And so that was really intense. And after about a week, she was finally free, and everything was fine. And then about 2 or 3 months later, she calls me and she tells me that she's back with this entity. And I just, what are you talking about? And she said, yeah, Jacob, you're right. She didn't really want to get rid of it. It's true. She had, she liked the power. She liked the power that it gave her. And she could tell you things about yourself that only you would know. Now that's a huge sign. That is an undeniable sign. People say, well, there's 4 signs. There's supernatural strength. That can be faked. That can be explained. It can be faked. There can be a child trapped under a bus, and grandmother goes up and lifts the bus up off the child. That's, how does she do it? Well, it's not demonic. She just doesn't think about it. If she thought about it and said, okay, I'm gonna have to lift this multi-ton bus off of my granddaughter or grandson, she would never do it. But that's the power of your mind. She did it. She didn't think about it. She didn't think, okay, what if I can't lift this bus? Never crossed her mind. People lift cars off people and, do feats of supernatural strength. There you go. It's not demonic. It can be, but, and then they say speaking in a language that they've never studied or that they've never learned, and that's a pretty big one. But there are people that took like Latin in high school, or listen to different learning language CDs or hypnosis or whatever, and it can just it can be like the smallest amount of time, and then they build on that, and they can that's not necessarily something that's demonic. Now, someone that's speaking Aramaic or something like that, or someone that's speaking Aramaic backwards or even English backwards and very fluently, that's a huge sign. That you're dealing with something that is very proud, very spiteful, and loves to show off. I mean, that's the truth. And but the main thing that is undeniable is when they tell you something that you did when it was just you by yourself and you told no one. And they're like, yeah, I know what you did. And trust me, they will speak it. They will tell it with great joy. And it really makes you really get your attention when that happens. So yeah, she was in really bad shape, and she calls me and she says that her husband, her ex-husband, who was very abusive, said that he was going to kill her. He was going to make her suffer by killing their 2 little boys. And so when he did, she panicked, and called on this entity that she had grown so fond of. And this entity, she said, told her that if she would give herself to it, you know, that it would protect her sons, that her sons would not be harmed in any way. And she fell for it. And there was nothing I could do. And for the most part, I've helped people, and it's that's exactly why that I do it, is because when I see the smile on their face, and it's not something that's like, some people say, well, it will come to you gradually in stages. That's not true. If it's demonic and the person is oppressed or even worse, possessed, when that entity, when that energy, when that negativity is cast out, kicked out, thrown out, gone, it's instantaneous. And, the person is changed right then, right there. It's not something that happens, in 6 months and all that crap. I mean, but last I heard, she was still going back and forth, and I hope things will change. But it all goes back to someone that just cannot get enough power. They want power. They want all power. Not just to be powerful enough, not just to know enough to live each day. They want to know it all. And that's what they're promised, and some people, they can't, they fall for it. And just like she messaged me using a false name, and she said, "Hey," she said, "it's me." She says, "Oh, I need to talk to you." She said, "I know everything." She says, "I know so much." She says, "You would not believe how much I know." And I'm thinking, everything. That's a huge statement. I mean, everything. And that's what she was literally saying. I mean, she literally believed it. And she said, I have always been with this entity. We've always been together throughout time. Different times, different lifetimes. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you are really, really gone. And so, win some and you lose some, and those that you lose, it's very sad. But this is just it. I can help a person as much as they're willing to help themselves. If they're not willing to help themselves, then they're gone already. I mean, it's a waste of time. I'm not being rude. I'm not being callous. It's just the truth. It's a waste of time, and it's very dangerous because you can be around someone like that, and you can get an attachment. You can be targeted, and that's something that's really, people say, oh, that's just your imagination. No, it's really not. It's really not. Some cases, yes, it can be, but what I'm talking about, it's not imagination. Jacob, you said she invited the first time. And you're right about knowing things that she shouldn't know, possibly know about you, yeah. And others, of course, you knew how my grandfather treated me. I never told her about it. Yeah, she was, which it wasn't really her. I mean, it was this entity that was like bragging, showing off, which is what I said. They love to show off. They're so full of pride. I mean, they, look at what I can do. And, people may find it funny, but they, you can ask them their name, and they may give you their name, but it's an anagram. Letters are just rearranged, or it may be backwards, or it may be a complete lie. I mean, what they do is they take truth and they mix it with a lie and twist everything around, and it's extremely dangerous when you get into it, because they can their main mission, this is how I can best describe it, is it's like hijackers. When they hijack an airplane, your body is the airplane. Okay, when hijackers hijack an airplane, what do they want? They don't want the airplane. Of course, they have to be inside the airplane to hijack it. What is their goal? What do they want? They want access to the cockpit, which is your mind. And that's what they do. That's what the oppression stage is once they attach, they begin chipping away methodically, just chipping away, just, maybe not a full-fledged attack, but it's just definitely there nonstop. Maybe just, to use, metaphorically, like tapping you on the forehead, just tap, 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 just bothering you, just, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And then it escalates into more, like paranormal activity. I've a talk with people that had fruit juice canisters explode while I was talking to him on the phone. Just boom, boom, boom. I could hear it. What's that? Oh my God! My kids' fruit juice, are just exploding. Light bulbs blowing out. The TV tube, boom, blowing out. Everything. I mean, just crazy. It's like all hell's breaking loose. But so they but their goal is to enter the cockpit, and that's your mind. And when they do that, when they wear a person down, and it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, if the person's not helped, because they're not going to give up. There was one woman that contacted me from the Philippines, and she told me that she was very sad. She had been that she hadn't left her home in 3 days, and she was suicidal and extremely sad. I asked her why she was sad, and she said that she had lost her spirit guide that she had had since she was 9 years old. This woman was 45, and so I asked her about her spirit guide, and she told me the name, and I said, where did you where did you learn this name? Where did you hear this name? She said, it told me its name. And I said, have you studied the Kabbalah? She said, no, never. And I said, do you realize that name is actually a word for very, very deep, advanced, powerful teachings within the Kabbalah on the basically it's from the book of formation of the fabric of time and space itself, like the world as we know it. And it's like the blueprints of reality. And she says, no, she said, I didn't know that. And I said, yeah, I said, this is not good. I said, when did your spirit guide leave? And she says, well, she said, and she was calling it a she said, she told me that we needed to do a ritual to where we can become one. And I said, excuse me? She said that we needed to do a ritual to where she could enter me and we could become one. And I said, whoa, did you do the ritual? I mean, did you do it? She says, yes. And she said, that's when my spirit guide disappeared. And she says, and I'm being tormented by this demon. And she said, and my spirit guide is nowhere to be found. Where is she? And you can imagine what's going through my mind. And I told her, I said, listen to me. I said, your spirit guide's not missing. I said, the demon is your spirit guide. I said, it was never your spirit guide. I said, that was just a ruse. It was just a lie for it to enter you. And she said, but she's been with me since I was 9 years old. So you take that from the age of 9 to the age of 45. That's like nothing to an interdimensional entity that's not even bound by time as we know it, the illusion of time as we know it. But that's what happened. That's how long it waited. That's right, Jacob. They oppress and oppress until you're weak, then they possess. And that's what happened, is it wore her down, and then when she was weak, she was, she put on a good front, everything's fine, I'm strong, and you're spiritually sound, but she really wasn't. And she was wanting more power, and this thing told her, if you'll do this ritual, if you'll let me enter you, then we can become one and you will be powerful. And she did it. And so I told her, I said, you need help. I said, you need help now. And she actually had her 12-year-old son with her, and he was like terrified, and she was going off on him, and scared that she was gonna commit suicide in front of him. And I could see this, like barreling out of, control. So of course I asked her, where do you live? She wouldn't tell me, and so I was trying to find a way to find out where she was, to let, someone know, hey, this woman's in bad shape, you need to go help her. Never could. So she was actually a member of this Facebook group that I started at the time, which I still have, the Spiritual Advancement Society. And I told her, I said, until you get help, and I said, and I know that you've gotten help, I said, I'm going to have to remove you from the group. And she says, no. She says, I have, people there that I'm teaching. And I said, yeah, well, you're not going to do that anymore. I said, that's done. What you did, I said, is the cardinal. I mean, whoa, you just don't do that. You don't let anything enter you and, become one with it. And she did this about face, and she said, she said, I will call you back in about an hour or so. Click. She called back and she said, everything's fine. She says, I removed it myself. Really? Well, I said, I don't believe you. And I said, matter of fact, I said, I'm not really sure that I'm talking to, and said her name. And when I said that, this screech, just this screeching, wailing, really high pitched, like, I don't know how to even describe it, but it was piercing. And she tore into me and was telling me, you're dead, you're as good as dead, and blah, blah, blah. And, and I just said, yeah, I said, that's, heard that before, and I said, I hope that you get help. I said, but I said, this, I said, I can't, do this, especially by phone. So I ended that conversation and, of course, removed her from the group and, notified everybody that, what had taken place. So later on, I get messages from her sister, and her sister is, man, she's like rabid. She was telling me, she says, we got something in store for you. And I said, really? Yeah. She says, you don't know who you're dealing with. And I said, well, I've heard that before. I said, I'm really scared. And so she's kept on and on. She says, I'm a witch. I couldn't pass up. I said, for what, Halloween? I mean, and she goes, oh my, you are so dead. And, I'm just doing that because, deep down, it's not that girl. It's not the sister that's doing it. It's this, it's what was in her sister somehow was affecting her, and then she told me that they were doing they were into very powerful occult things and hidden things, dark things, certainly not good things. And so she said, we've got something planned for you. I said, great. I said, bring it on. So that night, Mona and I, we went to bed. And this is in Texas. We went to bed. And this was when we were living on a third-story apartment. We were sound asleep. And all of a sudden, about 2:30 in the morning, I don't know, 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, the building shook. Our apartment building shook. And it felt like the building literally like swayed and touched the ground and then popped back up, because it literally threw me to where I was thrown out of bed but landed on my feet, barely. And Mona says, what was that? I mean, the furniture moved, dresser moved, everything. And I just said out loud, is that the best you can do? And lo and behold, it comes out that morning that there was a 2.5 or 2.6 earthquake. The epicenter was underneath our very apartment building. That's a fact. And Mona is a witness to that. Mona can attest to that fact. And so there was a lot of spiritual warfare going on with those two, this woman and her sister. And then, people are going to say, man, this dude's crazy. And then we started seeing this shadow person in our apartment. And I saw it first, didn't say anything because it didn't look at me, didn't look at us. It just walked like a residual haunting or like a loop, and that's where I guess the best way to describe it is that there's been something that was so traumatic or so sad that made such an impact on someone that something on the astral plane or in the spirit is actually like recorded, I guess you could say, where it just plays continually, and it's not really an entity. It's just that what happened, or where that person was going when something tragic happened or whatever, or life-changing or heartbreaking or whatever. And so it wasn't, sentient. It wasn't aware. Now, if it had have looked at me, then that would have been a problem, because then it would be, of course, sentient. It would be self-aware, and then you're dealing with something that is probably doesn't have your best interest in mind. And then on top of that, began seeing another, and this one was aware. This one was sentient, because it would run and hide. No kidding. Would run and hide. And there was a young woman and her 2 children that came to live with us, that we were helping, and her little boy was 6 years old, and I had said nothing about this to them. I didn't want to scare them. I didn't say anything about it. And she's at the apartment one night, and we had gone out to eat or something, and she calls me and she says, Shane, she said the strangest thing just happened. She said, we were walking out of our bedroom, and she said, her son, 6-year-old son, said, oh, and jumped. And she saw this shadow out of the corner of her eye that ran past him, and he said, that's the Flash. Because he was he was all about the Marvel comics, and everything. And he said, that's the Flash, but he said he was wearing a head, dress or something like the Flash wears, whatever, crown or something. And she said, and it ran into your bedroom. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, I wasn't going to say anything about it. I said, because I didn't want to, scare you. And I said, I thought maybe if I don't give it the attention, that, everything, that it might just stop, it might go away. But it turns out that, that was confirmed. Same thing that I saw, same thing Mona had seen, and it's she asked me, this young woman asked me, she said, where, she said, what is it? Where does it come from? I told her, I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what it wants. I said, but I said, your guess is as good as mine. It never tried to hurt us. Never tried to hurt them. But we did do certain things that that lessened the activity. But I'll be honest with you, I would like to say yes, I was successful in making it leave, but I wasn't. So not sure what it was. Maybe it was a projection of my own consciousness. Maybe it was a projection of Mona's own consciousness. Maybe it was a projection of somebody's consciousness that was living in the apartment complex. Who knows? Our minds are very, very complex, to say the least, and we don't know squat compared to the power that we really have. So anyway, but Jacob, what's your thoughts on that? Well, you said, right, if the person who's possessed could remove the demon themselves, then they would never have been possessed in the first place. That's right. Absolutely. And, one main thing is people say, Well, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that, and there's, things happening in my house, and just this horrible dread, this horrible odor, stench, smell. My dogs are acting scared, cats, are going crazy or whatever. And they're like, I'm going to burn some sage, I'm going to pour some salt, I'm going to burn some I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't, do not do that. Crosses and salt and crystals and all that. They're like, well, why not? I said, because you're just going to piss it off. That's all you're going to do. You're going to make things worse. Because, just like Jacob said, they're extremely vain. They're extremely proud. So full of pride. And you start pouring salt, or you burn sage, and it's like an insult to them. They're like, are you serious? Do you really think that's going to have any effect on, There was one man that, called me. His brother was really, really oppressed, big time. I'm talking, had some major problems, and he was on the verge of becoming violent. And the guy's wife, she said something to him, and he just lashed out at her with vulgarity that he never used before. I'm talking like really, really horrible, not just vulgar language, but I'm talking really, really, it's vulgarity that's beyond human. I mean, it's inhuman, and that's just it. It's always sexual in nature. Most of the time, it's always sexual in nature, and it's very strange, to say the least. Well, they called me. Your brother called me, and he said, "Man," he goes, "my brother is he's possessed," and I'm like, "Oh." And I doubt that. I mean, very, very rare for someone to be possessed, totally possessed. I mean, that's it's just that's where most churches, most ministers, most pastors, priests nowadays, they won't even help someone that's oppressed. They turn them away. They tell them to, go see a psychiatrist, go see a psychologist. Well, most of them have already been to see psychiatrists, psychologists, and it hasn't helped. And they're showing all the signs of literal demonic activity. And these priests and pastors nowadays, they turn them away. And I've talked with a few, why turn them away? They said, because, to be honest, we're scared, it scares me. Yeah, well, I mean, it is scary, but that person is worth, facing my fear and, doing what needs to be done. But this man, when I got there, this man was just, sitting in a chair. He was just breathing very, very heavy, sweating, and was just, he was just boiling. And when I walked in, I talked to the brother and the wife, and the brother told me, he said, man, he said he said, I don't say. He said what happened he said, I didn't know what to do. He said, so I got a cross, and he said, and I held it up and said, in God's name, said, leave him. And he said, my brother laughed in this very deep voice, and he said, if it wasn't for your ignorance, I would take that cross and shove it up your ass. Literally, his exact words. And he said, and the way he said it, he said he meant it. He said there's no doubt about it. And I said, okay. I said, so now you know. Yeah. Crosses, they work in the movies and in books, but in real life, no. It just makes things worse. So anyway, I talked to them, and then I guess you could say ministered to him, talked to him, and helped him. And like I said, instantaneous, and things changed. And last time I heard, they were doing fine. So that's how it goes. Anyway, Jake, have any thoughts on this that we've kind of got into the this topic, which we really haven't talked about in a while. It's been probably a year and a half since we've talked about this, but or do you have any other topics that you want to talk about? Be my guest. Let me know. But okay, you say, I suffer from sleep paralysis occasionally, and when it does happen, there's a dark entity that stands next to me near my head. I believe that it is one of the shadow people entities. It has no facial features and radiates evil. It leaves, and I can move again as soon as I call on the name of Jesus. Okay? The sleep paralysis, does it happen when you're falling asleep, or do you wake up like in the middle of the night with that, or is it when you're waking up and the dark entity? Can you make out any features or any details about it? Just curious. Right. Which is what I say is Jacob says, using the cross, calling on Jesus. None of that works if you do not truly believe, and that's just it. Is crystals, salt, sage, whatever. All of that has no power in itself. It's an extension of you. It's an extension of your power. So really, I mean, I've had people say, I left my crystals at home, I'm going to have a horrible day. I'm like, no, you're not. You need to understand, you give those crystals power. They don't give you power. You got it backwards. I mean, you're going to have a horrible day because you believe you're going to have a horrible day. Because you left your crystals at home. Yeah, you empower those crystals. They don't empower you. And if you think about it, I mean, that's the truth. I mean, crystals just, sitting, without anybody handling them or using them. Do they have power? No. No. They don't have any inherent power. But they do when someone uses them that's, focused, intent, or whatever. And what it does is it magnifies your power. Why? How does that work? Your mind makes it real. Your belief. Same with the cross, same with salt, same with whatever. But with the demonic, yeah, don't try that, because they will call you on that, and they'll twist things to make you doubt what you believe, and it's not good. Jacob says it used to only happen when I was waking up, but the last time it started to happen when I was falling asleep. I felt it start to happen and stopped it. That's why I asked, because that's usually it starts in one of those, when you're waking up or when you're going to sleep, but then it escalates slowly, but it starts, happening when you're waking up, when you're going to sleep, or just when you fall asleep, you wake up, and then it gets to the point where you fall asleep, you wake up, you fall asleep, you wake up. And that is sleep deprivation. And there's nothing that will drain you more, that will weaken you more than lack of sleep. And, we definitely need to talk about that maybe after the show or whatever, because I wasn't aware that was going on a regular basis. And the dark entity, what does it look like? I mean, okay, you say it's been almost a year since it's happened. Well, that's good. You did something right. I mean, that's great. But there's many people that have this happen, and some of it is, it can be your own mind that it happens, and you see the shadow people. I'm not sure how that works, but it's my concern is when they wake up and they feel threatened, they feel this intense dread, and I have felt it before, not sleep paralysis, but I felt it in other circumstances, and it is unlike anything. I mean, man, can't even describe it. I mean, it is so frightening. You would choose death in a heartbeat. I mean, yeah, just, anything to not feel that level, it's off the charts, of panic and dread. Oh, man, it is, I don't even like talking about it. But I had an experience with something with a dark entity, but it was not human. More like smoke. If I guess, I mean, and, man, I've never felt fear on that level ever in my life, and that was in 98, and man, I'm talking, it was horrible, and it lasted about 2.5, 3 hours. Whew, man, it was horrible. I'm not even going to go into it. I mean, I hope and pray it never happens again, but I have a feeling that it will. I mean, for some reason. But you say the entity has a human shape, arms, head, not sure about legs, no face. And can you tell if it's wearing any clothes, if it's holding anything, any tools, or anything like that? Say it's very scary when you wake up and are unable to move, and you can feel the evil radiating from this thing that's standing next to you. The maliciousness, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. I mean, this girl that I was dating, she told me that she woke up one time and she woke up screaming, and she said that there were people standing around the bed. They were all looking down at her. But they weren't shadow people. She could see that they looked like that they were flesh and blood, but she didn't recognize them, and they were all looking at her smiling, and that's creepy. I didn't see them, but she did, and it scared the hell out of her. I mean, she was really shaken. But what was it? Was it a projection of her own consciousness, her own mind? I don't know, but I didn't see anything, but it was very real to her. And if it's real to you, then who's to say it's not real? I mean, just, Jacob, you say it has happened to me on and off since I was maybe 12 years old, and it hasn't happened since I moved. No, it's just a black humanoid shape. Okay. My first question would be, did something traumatic or life-changing happen to you when you were around 12, or close close to that age, because what happens in this this topic, this subject, is that most of the time there's what I call a trauma trigger, and there's some kind of trauma. There's an event, some kind of abuse, or loss, or something that is so traumatic that it triggers something in the psyche to where that it cracks, and that's where these what do you want to call them, demons, interdimensional entities, as John Keel of the Mothman, the one who wrote the Mothman prophecies and was the reporter, the investigator of the Mothman, John Keel. He said that demons were interdimensional entities, and that's exactly my take on demons. But to add to that, also what I've already said, is that I now believe that the person's own consciousness, their subconscious, they may be aware, they may not be aware that they're empowering this thing, that they're drawing this thing to them, and I guess it's like a symbiotic relationship. It's just my take. But but we can definitely talk about that after the show. But many times it's something traumatic that happens. And one thing about the ages 11, 13, 11, 12, 13, is what happens that we all go through, puberty. And I'll tell you, when people call me or ask me about, well, I'm having this activity in my home or in my life now, and light bulbs are blowing out, lights are flickering, electronics are messing up, and this and that, and there's things are missing, and sounds like what is most often described now as poltergeist activity. My first question is do you have a child around between the ages of 9 and 12 or 13 or whatever? Yes, I do. Most of them, yes, I do. And okay, how old? And one was even like 9 years old. And I said, well, this is going to be, I have to ask some very personal questions, but has she started going through puberty? And how did you know that? And well, because this is what I do. I mean, yeah, there's your problem right there. And that's early for a girl to go through puberty at 9. So my first inclination was, oh, is there some kind of sexual abuse going on? I don't know, but when a child goes through puberty, There are biochemical changes, hormonal changes that wreak havoc. We can all remember going through puberty. It's rough. I don't care who you are. And for some reason, these negative entities, demons, interdimensional beings, or whatever, they're drawn to that. They're drawn to that. And very much so. And you can look it up. You can Google it about most of the haunting cases of the demonic activity, like the severe cases. There was always a child that was going through puberty, usually a girl. I don't know why that is, but usually a girl. Now, in the actual case of The Exorcist, the true story, it was a boy, and I believe he had just turned 13, maybe 13, 14, and this was in 1949 in Silver Springs, Maryland. And yeah, it come to find out, his aunt had died, who had taught him how to play with the Ouija board and taught him how to speak to how to contact spirits and talk to spirits. And well, when she died, it was learned, it was discovered that she had taught him a little bit more than just contacting spirits. She taught him, she molested him, And demons are transferred by 3 ways. First is by blood, whether it be ritualistic or just blood itself, because the Bible says the life is in the blood. When it says that, I believe it's talking about the DNA, the very basis, of life itself, the DNA. By blood. Second is by sex. By sex. If you think about that, you have the semen, you have the sperm. What is that? DNA. So it's the blood first and foremost, then sex, which is the two become one. That's sexual intercourse, correct? Two shall become one. You become one with that person. And the third way is what this woman in Las Vegas that I flew out and helped, that was her problem. The third way is the laying on of hands. And when I say that, that is something that most people they may have heard about that, but they don't really know what that there's a church in Redding, California called Bethel Church, and it is not good. It is not what it claims to be. And this woman that was under demonic oppression, experiencing demonic activity in her home, in her life, she had gone to an out branch of that church or whatever, and they laid hands on her, which is when a person, a spiritual person, pastor, whatever, spiritual authority that has the power, that knows what they're doing, when they lay hands on you, they're not laying hands on you for show. They're laying hands on you to impart something to you spiritually. It's supposed to be a gift, but they can also impart to you a curse, which would be, these entities, this negative energy, this focused negative energy, personified, whatever you want to call it. The laying on of hands, even the Apostle Paul in the Bible, he says, be very careful who you allow to lay hands on you, because that's what they're doing. They're imparting something to you, and it's either a gift or it's something bad, but they're not doing it just for show most of the time. I mean, if the real deal. And that's what this woman, she went up and they laid hands on her and said, receive the Holy Spirit. And they told her that you'll know it when you get the joy, when you're drunk in the Spirit, which, no offense to anyone. My grandfather was a Pentecostal pastor, so I'm not talking bad about anybody, but don't fall for that, because that can be such that is very, very misleading, because people are waiting to, they say, you'll speak in tongues, you'll speak in a language that you don't know, and they're, like Kenneth Copeland, he starts all that gibberish, and he has some other idiot, I'm sorry, but Kenneth Copeland, idiot. And those around him, idiots. And I would say it to his face, I don't care. The guy's built people out of so much money and taken advantage of people, and he's a billionaire, and I just can't stand the guy. And his cohorts, his friends, they're just as bad. Creflo Dollar, Jesse Duplantis, all these other scumbags. Anyway, he starts, speaking in tongues, blah, 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 blah. And then whoever's there, as his boy or whatever, starts speaking back to him. But get this, there's no one there interpreting what's being said. which in the Bible that they claim that they follow, it forbids that. It says if there's no one to interpret what is being said. Good night, Jacob. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you, brother. If there is no one to interpret what is being said, what's being spoken, it says remain silent. But you don't see them remaining silent. Why? Because it's a show. That's all it is. It's just a show. It's to make people believe that they have something that you don't. And people, they beg for it, and they fast for it, and they pray for it, and they say, what's wrong with me? He has it, she has it, they have this power, they have this, that. There must be something wrong with me, I must be bad, I must be, God must hate me, I must be a horrible person. I don't have it. You're right, you don't have it. You're not a con. I'm sorry, but, well, I'm not sorry. They're cons. I mean, Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, all these other, oh, yes, I mean, we've healed, we've healed thousands, It's like I saw this, I'm sorry, I have to laugh about it. I mean, it is so hilarious. Benny Hinn, with his comb over and, and he's just standing there and he's just disgusting. I mean, not his looks, but the guy's disgusting. I mean, he says, oh, precious saints, He says, how many people here can feel his presence? And I'm like, okay, whose presence? Come on, man. He's like, how many people here can feel his presence? How many people can feel like electricity going through your body, this warmth flowing through your body? Whoa. Hello, Mr. Suggestion. The power of suggestion. Well, yeah, man, people start holding up their hands all over the place, and he goes, you are being healed now. Diabetes, arthritis, deafness, thousands are being healed, and people are just jumping up and down, and they're, praise the Lord, and he says, yes, thousands are being healed. I'm like, really? Are you, what? Who the hell is this guy? You belong in a circus is where you belong. Because that's what you're doing, is you're putting on a show. You know why I keep saying thousands are being healed? The more he says it, the more people hear it, and they see people with, he says, hold your cell phones up. Those of you that are feeling the warmth, power of suggestion, yeah, they're going to feel it because he put it in their mind, to feel it. It's just very subtle, that you're going to feel it. But you're being healed. Thousands are being healed. And, these cell phones are going up and people are jumping up and down, and everything. But no one ever does a follow-up and checks to see if anybody was really healed, because it looks so good on camera, it looks so good on stage with the Mr. Authority himself, Benny Hinn, stating thousands are being healed, and people are, ooh, yes. And it's not the case. It's very sad. I mean, Benny Hinn's been sued because, supposedly healed a young boy of leukemia, and his mother stopped giving him, the medicine or the treatments because Benny Hinn, the little boy died, What the hell? But, hey, he has a cop-out. Well, it wasn't me, it was God, I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. But, that to me is these people like Kenneth Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, Benny Hinn, and Benny Hinn recently, he said, he says, I'll admit it. He says, we took advantage of gullible people. He says, we took advantage of the poor. How? By promising them that if they would give to God, that they'd be rich. That promising to the sick that if they would give to God, that they would be healed. Yeah. Oh, I do not. There's no love lost with me and these scumbags. So, in my opinion, they are controlled by, they worship money. And they worship materialism. That's their God. And they're using people. They don't give a damn about people. All they care about is lining their own pockets. And that's just another way that evil works. These men are agents of evil, and empowered by it. Empowered by greed, selfishness. They're certainly not giving. They're certainly not servants. And ministers, the only people they minister to is themselves. Anyway, we've gone as long as we can go. So I just want to thank Jacob and Nazreen and whoever showed up on the live chat, took part. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And those of you that listened and are listening to the replay, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please leave me a message or comment if you enjoy the show, or if you have questions or want to share personal experience or something concerning this topic that we talked about tonight on YouTube or here on Spreaker. And you can reach me at the Texorcist Podcast at gmail.com. That's the Texorcist Podcast at gmail.com. And you can, if you have questions, or if you're experiencing activity or unusual strangeness, or you feel like that you may be oppressed or whatever, you can feel free to send me an email, and everything confidential, and I will help you in any way I can. Anyway, thank you all. Good night from Texas. See you next time.